What's going on, everybody? It's Friday night, so you already know what it's all about. It's all about West Virginia football, and we're actually live streaming across 3 channels: Golden Blue Dude, the voice of college football, and the voice of college football West Virginia football channel. So a lot going on tonight, and usually we like to break stuff down and talk about different positions and stuff like that, and we will get into that. But tonight, it's all about the backyard brawl. I mean, we will get into West Virginia season and the players and the changes. That's the biggest thing about West Virginia that people don't realize. They don't quite get it. And I'm not calling people dumb or anything like that, but you usually go by what you saw last year. And what we saw last year was pretty good defense, non-existent offense. So to be honest with you, 6-6, we shouldn't have gone 6-6. Travis Kenobi, what's going on, buddy?
How much, GVD? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Less than 2 weeks from the backyard brawl. A little bit more excited about it than usual because I'm actually going to be there in person. This is going to be my first backyard brawl, and it's on the road. But I'm still happy.
Man, you're in for a treat.
Oh yeah, I'm happy. I think there's going to be about 30,000 of my closest friends there as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about 60-40 West Virginia fans is what I'm kind of hearing.
Yep. You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing that there have been some West Virginia fans that bought pit season tickets just to go to the backyard brawl. Being serious. Multiple sources telling me this. That blows my mind. And I don't necessarily disagree with that or doubt it because, I mean, it's been over a decade. This is not like an every year type of thing, and somebody would just buy season tickets for a game that's on the road. No, this hasn't happened in quite some time.
Yeah, well, in pit season tickets go pretty cheap, especially compared to ours. And there were a lot of Penn State fans that did that several years ago. Maybe it was 2-3 years ago, but Penn State fans bought season tickets and just gave away what they could give away and sold what they could sell.
You know what's funny? A lot of the fans that aren't West Virginia or Pitt fans are like, what's the big deal? Okay, well, if you're an Ohio State or Michigan fan, that would be like you not playing the other team for over a decade. If you're an Auburn, Alabama fan, that'd be like the Iron Bowl not being played for over a decade. You get the picture. It's a big deal. I would say a top 10 rivalry in the nation. What would you say? You agree with that? Top 10? At least close?
Yeah, it's if it's not right in the top 10, it's top 15.
Right.
I mean, it's as far as rivalries go, it's one of the ones with the most number of games played.
Yes.
It has its lopsided streaks, though. I mean, for a long time, Pitt sort of dominated us, and then
3 decades
kind of went back and forth for a couple decades after that, and then we kind of took it over after that. So it's been as far as rivalries go, it hasn't been like every year the other team wins or the home team wins or whatever.
Right. Yes. Notable rivalries that I would put this over. I would put this over the Palmetto Bowl. That's Clemson, South Carolina. Yep. I'd put this over, not my words, their words, the Civil War, Oregon State. The Apple Cup, Washington State, Mississippi, and Ole Miss. Now, it's not up there with like the Iron Bowl, Ohio State, Michigan. Let's see. Give me some other good ones.
Stanford, Notre Dame.
Well, I'd say USC, Notre Dame.
Yeah. Well, Notre Dame has like 3 rivals, really.
Yeah, gosh. Texas, Oklahoma. That's a good one right there.
Yeah. That's probably number 2 or 3 on my list, honestly.
Yep. It's a great one. Great one.
And then the service academies have some good rivalries.
Yep.
So can't leave those out.
Definitely agree with that. Whatever channel you're watching this on, Golden Blue Dude, Voice of College Football, or West Virginia Voice of College Football, do us a quick favor. Hit the thumbs up. And to be honest with you, that doesn't necessarily mean that you like me or Travis or this video. It just helps the video hit the YouTube algorithm. And that allows the video to get suggested more. More people see it, click on it, and that's how we grow your audience. So if you haven't hit the like button, please do so. It definitely helps this video. So we would greatly appreciate that. So
And
hasn't
it,
been
and it
playing.
helps the fans too. Let's just be
Yes,
honest. It's a
exactly.
fan driven show. We interact with our fans and comments all the time. So
Yeah, that's a good point right there. It's not all about just helping us. Like, especially if you enjoy the content, then you're helping the content that you enjoy. So you will get to see it more because it'll get suggested more. So good point, Travis. I never thought of it that way. Very good point.
no, I come up with a good one every now and then.
You know what the funny thing is, as far as the backyard brawl, um, I think it's safe to say that Pitt definitely dominated the 60s and 70s, and you could maybe throw in the 50s. But since I've been born, and I was born in the December of 1982, so you can't really count the 82 season because I was born after it was played. So from the time that I was born up until now, West Virginia has actually dominated Pitt, like 18 wins to 9 losses and 2 ties. I consider myself lucky as far as the time period, being born a West Virginia fan in the backyard brawl. Now, there's that one glaring 13-9 issue that I don't like to talk about, but other than that, it's been a great time to be a Mountaineer and to witness the backyard brawl.
Yeah, no, it has. We've had some good teams in those rivalries too. I mean,
Yep.
it's just been we've been fortunate to have the upper hand on that, and we beat some good Pitt teams.
Yes.
Some Pitt teams with Larry Fitzgerald and
I remember whenever non-ranked West Virginia beat number 9 Pitt.
Yep.
A big upset right there.
So their 13-9 was kind of like their revenge for some of those games.
That was like revenge for like 10 of those put together.
Yeah. Well,
my gosh. So this year, coming out of a 6-6 season, very, very let down. A lot of people were thinking 7-5, 8-4, including myself. I was, we just went 6-4, and Jarrett Dagey was the undisputed number 1 quarterback. So 8-4 sounded about right. What we didn't realize is that not having an offensive coordinator matters more than what we thought. We should have known that. I mean, that's common sense. But I guess watching 2020, we masked our deficiencies quite well. And in 2020, they were thrust into the limelight. So we had a bunch of issues. 6-6, very big letdown year. But, and I've said this multiple times, but I cannot stress this enough. We're actually lucky that we went 6-6. And we actually could have had a better record than that. We had 4 of those 6 losses were toss-up games that we just couldn't finish. And honestly, you could boil it down to that Oklahoma game. I think if we can finish that game, I don't want to single out Frazier. Great center. He had one bad moment, hurt us. But I think if we finish that game, and we had Oklahoma on the ropes, I thought we were going to win that game. We win that game. I think we also beat Texas Tech because we're not bummed out and not show out in the first quarter, 0 points. We came back and tied it, but they kicked a game-winning field goal. So there's 2 wins right there. Automatically, that's 8-4. I can't go beyond that, but I mean, 8-4 at minimum. That's how close we were to having a halfway decent season.
Yeah, well, and to take some of the heat off of Zach Frazier, and I know you weren't putting it on him, but
right.
The play that stands out to me the most in that game is actually when Jarrett Dagey had Bryce Ford Wheaton right in front of him in the end zone. And the guy has a literal bullseye on his jersey because he's the number 0. And he threw 3 feet over his head. And it's like, you've got the guy's number right here. If you throw that ball 3 feet down, we score a go-ahead touchdown, and we probably win that game with the way the defense was playing. The defense had Oklahoma handled. And you can't say definitively that one play would have changed the game, because maybe Oklahoma picks it up and says, we're not going to lose to the Mountaineers here. But it gives us more of a fighting chance than we had.
Right.
And it's also a game, when you look at it, I mean, weren't we winning the entire game until the last second?
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy to think about that season. And
I
what
don't
could have
remember
been.
do you remember how big of an underdog we were? I know it was significant, but I can't remember the exact number. So at halftime, when I can't remember if we were winning or they were winning, but it was really, really close. I'm like, what? This is close? Okay. Maybe this will be a halfway decent game. And then, of course, hope starts building up because still in it by the end of the third quarter, still in it in the fourth quarter. We have a chance to win if we can capitalize right here.
Right, and we
That
didn't.
wasn't supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to be in that game.
No. I mean, Oklahoma fans were like, Spencer Rattler's not the guy, but we got in his head. We rattled his cage. You got to give credit to our defense too for playing as well as they did. The one thing I'll tell you though, speaking of defense, is that I think ours got worn out towards the end of last season.
Oh yeah,
when the offense just never helped them out. It just
well, it's not just they got wore out. I mean, mentally, that's gotta be like, my gosh, do we have to stop them every freaking time to win a game? I mean, how many stops did they get a game? A lot.
On sudden change,
3 and outs.
And with the field position battle not going our way because special teams was also a deficiency.
Yeah. Well, and also the thing was, the biggest difference between 2020 and 21 when it comes to defense is turnovers. The 2020 defense was great at creating turnovers. I mean, just ridiculous. 2021, not so much. We were a good defense in getting stops, 3 and outs, holding them to field goals. So it was a good defense, but we weren't the defense of 2020 where we were actually turning our opponents over and our offense, gets started on the opponent 25, 30-yard line. You're already in field goal range.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as opportunistic. That's right. And this year jury's still out, but I tend to think that we're gonna pop the ball loose a lot more. We've got the playmakers to do it.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that still kills me is even our own fans. I mean, there's a lot of skepticism in our own fan base about the offensive line, and some of that may or may not be justified because we've been through 3 years where we've had really bad offensive line play up to what I'd call sort of average offensive line play at the best towards the end of last year. But even with bad offensive line play, bad to average offensive line play, and a quarterback that, he fought for the university, whatever. But I mean, what's going around, right? Is now people are like, wait a minute, Jarrett Dagey couldn't get on at Western Kentucky. And so now he's transferred for a second time in the offseason to Troy, a job that Neil Brown probably got him because it can't be coincidence that he ends up at the former home of his former coach. I mean, this is a guy who doesn't belong in Power 5 football and lost the G5 starting spot to another transfer from D2.
Yep.
And we still went 6-6, and we're within striking distance of 8-4. And
absolutely,
outside of Messidor and Lenny Brown, both of whose production will be matched, maybe not by one single person, but by a combination of people, you basically have the same team this year with a big upgrade at quarterback and offensive coordinator. So even if everything is the same, what makes anybody in the world think that we're going to finish worse than we did last year? Man, that's beyond me. The schedule is not that much harder. Yeah, we play Virginia Tech away, but Virginia Tech is considerably worse, or likely will be considerably worse this year than they were last.
Well, I look at the schedule, and the only tougher part of the schedule is the beginning of it, at Pitt and at Virginia Tech. Besides that, it's actually easier. We get Kansas State, who a lot of people are saying is going to be a sleeper in the Big 12. We get them at home. We get Oklahoma at home. We get Baylor at home. The three arguably the toughest teams in the Big 12. The only tough team we get on the road is Oklahoma State. That's it. This schedule is super, super manageable. So there isn't a solid reason, a real reason, other than you're being silly, you're trash talking, you don't like West Virginia, you don't like me, blah blah blah. Irrational reasons, not actual facts. There is no real facts to support that we'll have a worse record than what we did last year. There's no facts to back that up. Zero.
And Baylor, by the way, has never beat West Virginia in Morgantown ever. Baylor came into Morgantown ranked as high as 5th in the country and had a dynamic team that year, and we put a hurting on them that year.
Was that the year they split the Big 12 title with TCU?
I believe so, but
the reason I'm asking that is, from my memory, from what I can remember, I think this is correct. I think we were the actual loss that cost them from going to the playoffs, and it's what caused the Big 12 to usher in the Big 12 championship back in.
I think that's the same season. I don't have any reason to disagree, but because when we played Baylor, they were ranked 5th. When we played TCU, they were ranked 10th, and Baylor won that game on the last second field goal, and I don't think they lost any after that. So
right,
I do think that was the same season where they were basically 5th and 6th in the country.
So we beat a playoff caliber team. We hurt the Big 12, but I mean, it just proves how difficult Morgantown is. So it absolutely is in our favor. I would say 100%. This is the easier year as far as conference scheduling. If you look at West Virginia's conference scheduling, they have their easy year and their tough year. In the tough year, you get basically all of our tough opponents on the road, and then in the easy year, we get all of our tough opponents at home.
Yeah, it sort of has been split that way. I will say this one thing I was looking at the other day, because I read an article that said, we were going to finish poorly, and Virginia Tech could basically field a high school team at Lane and win. And so I wondered, like, how good is Virginia Tech at home really? And
depends on.
It's actually not nearly as good as you think.
Yeah.
Part of that is because over the last several years, Virginia Tech really hasn't been that good of a team. And if you're not that good of a team, it's hard to play well against good opponents at home or on the road.
Yep. Well, I mean, even when they were good, West Virginia wasn't that great. West Virginia has gone on the road against Virginia Tech and Blacksburg and have beaten them. There was that goal line stand and then that interception in the end zone, both in Blacksburg.
Yeah.
I think both of them were in the early 2000s, but they could be farther apart than that. But, I mean, they're definitely beatable. Virginia Tech, it's just like anybody else. It depends on how good they are. They don't have, like, this unbeatable presence when they're bad. I mean, last year they beat North Carolina. Everybody thought North Carolina was going to be good, but they turned out to be a 7-5 team.
Yeah.
So preseason rankings don't mean anything, especially when you look at the end of the season.
And they lost 3 in a row. I'm looking at it. They lost 3 in a row at home last year: Notre Dame, Pitt, and Syracuse. And Syracuse finished last year, 5-7? So.
Hey, Travis, hold on one second. My kids need me for a second, so can you carry this for a minute?
Yeah. Well, right. I don't have access to the comments, so.
That's all right. I'll be right back.
All right. But yeah, no, people, think Virginia Tech is unbeatable at home, and they were last year same record at home and away. Year before that, I think one more win at home than away, but nothing close to unbeatable. They lost Liberty at home that year. 19, not much better. Lost to Duke at home. Lost to Virginia at home. No, that was away. Sorry about that. Lost to Duke at home. That was the year they were 8-5. Surprised they actually played Old Dominion at Old Dominion the year before that, but they lost that game. That was Virginia Tech just really hasn't had a lot of recent good history, and there's no reason to think they'll be better this year. So people say that game is going to be tough. You can't overlook any on your schedule, but I think Virginia Tech's a down year. Yeah, so I like more interaction with the fans in this, and I cannot see the comments, so my apologies for that. Yeah, I'm gonna look at Pitt's home and away as well. They don't get a lot of attendance, so I don't think Pitt really has much of a home field advantage.
Sorry about that, buddy. I had to help my kids find something.
You're all good. Yeah, I was just looking at Pitt's home and away last year as well, and the first thing that jumps off the page is that loss to Western Michigan 41-44 was at home.
Which was the same week that we beat Virginia Tech. That was a great Saturday.
Yeah, seeing Pitt lose in Virginia Tech, that's like the best of all worlds for our rivalry world.
Well, I remember after halftime, I was at the Virginia Tech game last year. I remember after halftime, they kept updating the score. I was like, holy crap, Western Michigan could actually upset them. And then, man, the crowd went nuts for that as well. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time in recent history that Pitt has lost to a G5 team.
They have issues against G5 teams. I don't know why.
I mean, they barely beat Youngstown State back in 2017 at home.
They're FCS.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can't just like Pitt really, I mean, even when Pitt plays us at home, it's neither school really has a home field advantage because we're so close. I mean, that's what people don't realize is that Morgantown in many ways is it is an extension of Pittsburgh.
And vice versa.
Becoming a suburb of it. I mean, what is it? It takes an hour and 15 minutes to get from downtown Morgantown to downtown Pittsburgh up 79.
Yep. And that's counting like city traffic.
Right. So now for some of us who go like 80 miles an hour on that road, it may be a little shorter.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it worked out for me because that was the same week that we were headed to Charleston for Labor Day weekend. So, if I had to drive from here straight to Pittsburgh, you're looking at 12, 13 hours, which I would have still done it. But it's just much easier going to Charleston, which is about 6.5, 7 from here. And then from Charleston to Pittsburgh is like another 5, maybe 4 or 5 hours, something like that.
Yeah, I think
on traffic.
It's closer to about 3.5, 4, I would guess.
Yeah.
Depending on where in Charleston. It's kind of a oddly laid out city.
Yeah, for me, I think it'd be more like 4.5, 5 because I'm on the west side. I'm actually halfway between Huntington and Charleston. I stay in Cross Lanes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Family there?
Oh, yeah. We got family there, and we got family down here. I'm not sure. I'm streaming across 3 different channels, so I'm not sure which channel these super chats are coming from. So y'all let me know if you can see the super chat that I have on the screen on your channel or not. I'll try to figure it out if you can't. But thank you, Falcon Nerks. Am I saying that right? Falcon Nerks for the 305 donation. GBD rocking those amazing shades. Always. Every live show that I do, no matter what channel I'm on, I'm wearing these shades. Jeffrey Foster, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Who's winning the quarterback battle? List quarterbacks in order, please. You want me to, or you want you to?
Well, I mean, we don't know until Brown comes out and says it, but there is no quarterback battle.
No.
There's not really a quarterback battle. It's JT Daniels.
There's a competition. There's a competition, but there's no battle.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, I think the competition is who's the backup.
Right.
And that I'd love to know the answer to that question. I don't know. I've heard them say that Nico has done some pretty amazing things and has come up to speed pretty quickly. I've heard them say the same thing that they did in the spring about Crowder, is that he's really consistent. And then I've heard them say some things about Green that really surprised me. Some of his playmaking ability that they didn't think he had with his arm, that he's starting to maybe show off a little bit.
Well,
But
you have
I
a
think
good point
Green's
there.
probably going to be in fourth place.
See, you brought something up right there. So the fact that we haven't heard whoever could be the fourth quarterback on the depth chart, hitting the transfer portal, that tells you how tight it is too.
Yeah, and I think, if I were a betting man, I would say that that's part of the strategy. That's part of the reason that there's a competition and a battle, is you have to make everybody feel like, in today's day and age, that they have an opportunity to play and compete and see the field in some way, shape, or form. And that's across the board. That's one of the reasons that we're talking about playing up to 9 defensive linemen throughout the years. One, not only is the depth good, but two, certain players you can't keep off the field. And I'm hearing that about Sonny Redwood, man, that he's a guy he has to see the field, because he's that good. We don't want to be the ones who develop him, and then we lose him like we did Messidor.
Right.
But that tells you how good that true freshman defensive lineman might be, that they're like, we can't, by any means, we can't lose this kid. So yeah, no,
who do you think is going to be quarterback number 4 and possibly transferring?
I'd say Green. Green is probably number 4.
That's who I'd say. And that's crazy too, because I do think he's a good talent. I do think he needs to learn more patience, because he has the instinct of tucking the ball and running if he doesn't see his first, option open immediately. And, it's like, it's just too enticing. He sees Green in front of him. Well, my first target's not open. I see a bunch of Green in front of me. I'm going. So patience would be really the only knock that I would have on Garrett Green.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I mean, we've talked about that before, that like that Daggy and Green in some ways were similar, in that pressure did things to them that it shouldn't do, like the poise wasn't there.
Yep.
And with Daggy, it was, I'm just going to run into a sack. And with Green, it was, I'm just going to run to some open field and hope that something happens.
Right. That's exactly right about Daggy, by the way. It wasn't just that he was a statue. He always stepped in the wrong spot. If the pressure came from the left, he stepped to the left. If the pressure came from the right, he stepped to the right. If it was coming from behind, he took a step backwards. I'm like, dude, are you doing this on purpose? Like, that's how bad it was.
Which to me was like, when I think about the first game that he played back in 2019 against, was it Kansas State? And
yep.
And think about like him coming in and changing the dynamic of the offense. Like, I felt like he was the exact opposite those last 3 games of that season, where it looked like he actually had maybe some dual threat ability, or at least the ability to keep defenses honest and like juice up the offense. But when he became the guy, he lost it all.
You know what I think? I think that bowl game against Army was a precursor, because yes, we won, but Daggy was struggling, and they actually put in the backup Austin Kendall, and he won the game for West Virginia. Austin Kendall was pulled in the middle of 2020, and Jarrett Daggy was put in, and we ended up having a decent season. But for whatever reason, the bowl game started the woes of Jarrett Daggy.
Yeah, I mean, I think his woes probably started a little before that. I'm looking at it, and actually, the Kansas
Maybe they didn't
State
show till then.
Kansas State game was the first game he started, but he came in after halftime against Texas Tech. And he threw really well against Kansas State. 20 for 30, 230 yards, 9.8 adjusted yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a good game.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
that's what we had last year. Okay. I think we've established that he was not very good. I mean, we did the best with what we had. We finished 6-6. Upgrade on the offensive coordinator, big upgrade, basically from not having one to having a really good one. Upgrade on quarterback. I even have faith that if JT Daniels goes down, because you can't rule that out, that Will Crowder will at least be better than what Jarrett Deggy was. He's not going to be better than what we're going to get with JT Daniels, and then we're probably going to see some Nico. I think we'll see a battle between Nico and Will Crowder for the backup throughout the season. We lost our leading receiver, but he only had like 680 yards receiving last year, and we had a bunch of other wide receivers kind of bunched in. So technically, yes, he was the leading receiver, but only by a few yards. So the wide receiver core was thinned out, which is a good thing because they couldn't get in the groove last year. They were subbing almost every play. I mean, that can't be good. And then all 5 starting offensive linemen, which they've gotten a lot of shade thrown on them from last year. But if you look at our offensive linemen from the game after the bye week through the rest of the season, about had a cough right there. Through the rest of the season, they got better progressively. And so I think that's carried into the offseason from what I'm hearing. We forget Doug Nestor had a cast on his hand last year, and it kind of inhibited his hand movement. They're saying that's off, and he's basically mauling people. I think our offense is just upgraded as a whole this year.
yeah, no, and frankly, like when I look at it, Winston Wright, yeah, he was the leading receiver of the team in terms of yards. But his average was just over 10 per reception. And Ford Wheaton and James both had over, I think, 12 and a half. No, James was at 12 and Bryce Ford Wheaton was at 13.7. So, Winston Wright did a lot of damage with speed, but not necessarily on routes. And
right.
I mean, this year the pecking order is clear. It's Sam James, it's Bryce Ford Wheaton, and it's Caden Prather. And Caden Prather is an upgrade to Winston Wright. I have no doubt in my mind. He just doesn't have the snaps yet to show it. But once he starts accumulating good plays on film, we're going to see it. We're going to see why Caden Prather was a high 4-star recruit. And production level is up. I don't think we take any step backs in the wide receiver room, but I guess somebody looking at it on paper, and that's probably where some of these Vegas numbers and expert predictions come from, is you look at it on paper and you're like, wait a minute, leading receiver gone, leading running back gone, leading defensive lineman gone, except that's not really true because Dante Stills is really the leader there. One of their starting cornerbacks is gone. But look into the details, guys. It's not nearly as bad as it looks. We might have a problem at right tackle at first on the offensive line until one of those guys out of Hubbard and Yates really sets himself apart from the other.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you really have a problem at right tackle, you know what a solution is? Tight end every play.
Yep.
Go 3 out.
Then you're the tackle becomes the guard, so it helps. Well, I guess half a tackle. He becomes half a tackle, or half a guard. Excuse me. So yeah, I agree with that. And what I'm hearing from West Virginia and Neil Brown is that they are going to use more tight end sets, not just in blocking, but also in the passing game. They're going to run some routes using the tight end. I don't know how intricate they're going to be, or if they're going to just be base routes, like drag routes or anything like that. But they are going to run tight end routes for the passing game.
Yeah, and I would like to see that Mike O'Laughlin is healthy, but O'Laughlin and and Brian P. from Colorado State, whose last name I have not yet committed to memory, so I don't want to mispronounce it. He they're talking a big game about him, about Brian, that he's become sort of the thing that he was missing was his hands, and he's really stepped up his game in the off season. But he's a blocking first tight end, and we really need that. For the reasons, I mean, if we do have a problem at right tackle, a surefire way to deal with that is a blocking tight end over on that right side, and then you can still have 3 out and a running back.
Honestly, that was the first I heard that. I didn't know we had an issue at right guard. I thought Yates was looking good and set to be the starter.
Well, it depends on who you ask. I mean, the coaches have not declared a starter at that position yet, but they have also said that it's a competition between the two, and whoever is not the winner of that competition is going to be game ready right off the bat. So it's basically a 6th offensive lineman, in addition to Jordan White, who's number 7. So they feel pretty confident and comfortable about their depth.
So maybe it's not like a weakness; it's more like the biggest question.
Yeah, but some of the things I've heard, like the one thing that piques my interest is that Matt Moore said that Yates's problem is that he's not physical enough at times. He's more of a finesse offensive lineman, and that Hubbard's problem is that sometimes he's too aggressive and he finds his body out of position. And I don't know where I go on that because Yates has experience. He has 1,500 snaps in his Power 5 football.
Good Lord.
But it's hard. Like if you've had 1,500 snaps and you're still having problems with aggression,
is it going to go away?
It's like, can you actually coach aggression into a kid versus can you teach a kid to be in better position and some of the more minute detailed position? I think you can do that easier than you can teach a kid to be aggressive. So that I think that's where a lot of the problem is coming into play as I see this.
I was expecting stuff like this. I'm actually surprised it didn't happen sooner. Denver Snyder, $4.99 donation. What's the difference between a West Virginian and an idiot? The Pennsylvania state line. There you go. There's the first jabs have been thrown as far as trash talk between West Virginia and Pitt fans in the Super Chat category. That was not bad. I like it. I look at that. It seems like I should have heard that before, but I don't think I have. It's pretty good.
One of the things Pitt fans don't like to hear this, but there's really especially the Northern Panhandle and sort of the Morgantown, Fairmont, Clarksburg area. Is there really a difference between Western Pennsylvania and Northern and sort of Central West Virginia? There's not really a whole lot of difference between the two.
Landscape and geography, I would say definitely no. I mean, and even culturally, I would say no. I would say the only difference is you probably have a bigger majority of West Virginia fans on the West Virginia side, and not by much, but still a majority. That would be the only difference. I mean, you go up there, it's all Appalachia, all of it.
Yeah, Burgettstown, Avella, South Fayette, Washington. A lot of these places are filled with the same types of people that populate northern and central and even some parts of southern West Virginia. The only difference is the further sort of removed from city centers you get in West Virginia. It's kind of the less educated that people have become over the years, but same type of person. People that go out deer hunting for deer season and earlier and later. Exactly. And we'll use any type of weapon, bow, gun, doesn't matter. It's the same. It's the exact same type of people. So I kind of get a laugh when Pitt fans do that superiority thing, because they're not. You've got a city. What's the difference?
Yeah. I see Jeff Webster with another jab in there, but really the only type of person that looks down on another human being is somebody that has to make themselves feel better about themselves. If you think you're good enough to where you're substantial, then you don't have to tear other people down. So anybody that looks down on somebody else, I don't care what part of the country they are, then that speaks to your character. I just don't like. That's one thing that's always gotten on my nerves. Whenever somebody says, "Well, we look down on this type," I'm like, "Why? Like, you literally think you're better than them? Like, nobody's better than anybody. We're all created equal." The only time people say that is whenever they got to tear other people down to make themselves feel better, self-worth. I got sidetracked. I saw that comment and it really got underneath my skin. I hate it's annoying. It's very annoying. Very, very annoying. So the backyard brawl, we are less than 2 weeks away. It is official. It is official. Every time a day goes by, so about 13 days, dude, I'm getting jacked up. I've never been to Heinz Fitwell, a Risco field now. I've never been to a backyard brawl. Have you been to a backyard brawl? All right. Have you been to Morgantown and Pittsburgh?
Yep.
All right. So what am I in store for?
It's fun. I mean, there's going to be a lot of trash talking.
Yep.
It's you've never been to Heinz at all, or it's Acrisure now, but it's Heinz really. I mean, I grew up in the northern Panhandle, so like Weirton is a suburb of Pittsburgh, so Pittsburgh are my pro teams. So I know it well. I mean, it's a nice. It's an excellent stadium. It's one of the best NFL stadiums. Just Pitt doesn't fill it. But those gaps are going to come from us. We're gonna be filling it.
Yep.
I do think it's going to be about 60-40. There's going to be some good trash talk, some healthy trash talk. But have you been to Pittsburgh?
One time, but not to a football game.
Depending on exactly what direction you're coming from, you will probably end up going through the tunnel.
I'll be coming up 79.
Yeah, so you'll be coming through the tunnel to get in, and it's weird because like you start going before the tunnel, it's like Appalachia all over again. It's mountains, it's hilly terrain. There's stuff there, but it's not. It doesn't look like it's a lot. It's all kind of buried behind the hills to the sides of the road. And then you go through a tunnel that's right through a mountain. And when you come out the other side of the tunnel, there's the city line right there, right in front of it. It's like kind of creeps out of nowhere.
They kind of protected themselves. Let's build this tunnel, guys. We'll keep them out.
Yeah. Keep them hillbillies out.
Or at least we can bottleneck them and get them as they come out.
Yeah, right. That's the Spartan way, right?
So, all right. I'm guessing you've been to a Virginia Tech game, right?
Yeah, I've been to a Virginia Tech game.
So I did go to the Virginia Tech game last year. What's the biggest difference as far as atmosphere, game stuff, whatever, between Virginia Tech, West Virginia, and Pitt, West Virginia?
I mean, West Virginia has more fans than Pitt. And I think it's probably been that way since the early 90s. So West Virginia is the more passionate fan base among the two of those schools.
Nice.
Pitt looks down, they thumb their noses at us. Some of them do. So you get some of that sort of elitist mentality as if it were, as if there was some real huge culture difference between the two places, and they are not. So that's the dynamic of sort of Pitt, West Virginia, is we bring the noise and energy to that relationship. Pitt, Virginia, or West Virginia, Virginia Tech, I don't think anybody of either fan base has any qualms that we're in any notion that we're different.
Very similar. Yeah, I got you.
It's so weird. Like if you look at the programs, like when they started getting good and culturally and demographic of the people that follow them, and like the way that the topography of the land, all of it is the same. And Virginia Tech, we're not going to outnumber them. There's no way in hell we are going to outnumber them.
We will get the visiting section. That is it.
Well, I bet it'll be probably closer to 70-30, 65-35, something like that.
Okay. I can deal with that.
In striking distance.
So the one thing that I just mentioned as far as what gets under my skin, that's exactly what I'm going to be dealing with at Pitt.
Yeah. Well, not everybody, but some. I don't know how much time you've spent sort of north of the Mason-Dixon. But
I mean, not much, but some.
That's different between sort of northern culture and southern culture is
it's not that I've spent much time up there, but I've known a lot of Penn State fans my entire life, a lot of Pitt fans. Even I know Ohio is not technically above, but Ohio State fans have the same mentality. So I definitely get the mentality, and it's not just in football. I mean, they do it on every level in life. Like, they look down on you as a person.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, putting that aside, my friends in the North, we get along differently than my friends in the South. My friends in the North, we are making fun of each other as a sign of love, and that's all we ever do. We don't even say nice stuff about each other. All we do is make fun of each other. If you say something nice about
that you're friends,
that ends the conversation. And
right.
And you're right. It's proof that you're friends if you can do that.
Right.
In the South, I don't find as much of that. It's kind of a different dynamic. We still make fun of each other just like everybody else, but it's different. It's like, it's barbs, man.
It's hard to make fun of somebody that's exactly like you, you know?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. Maybe it's easier.
Yeah, you're like, this.
Because you know all the buttons.
That would sting me. That'll sting him. I got you.
But Virginia, the biggest difference, man, is Enter Sandman. It's not just that song, but the energy that song is sort of indicative of the energy that Lane Stadium can have if Virginia Tech is playing well and doing the things necessary to bring the fans in.
It's perfect at night too, because it just, even whenever, like last year, North Carolina going to Blacksburg and they played Enter Sandman at night, and like I was just like, man, this just seems like a bad deal I feel bad for him. This seems like this looks bad for. Not one snap had been snapped, and I was like, this looks bad for North Carolina.
Yeah, well, and that's the Lane Stadium factor. That's why people say it's not an easy place to play. It is not, but you still have to play good football to win, even if you have your crowd on your side.
Right. Right.
And that's what I don't think Virginia Tech has the ability to do yet.
Yeah, as bad as they were last year, they're going to be even worse this year.
And I think their new coach has some promise and may get them there, but it's not going to be that quick. It's not going to be that rapid of a turnaround.
Oh, Virginia Tech will definitely be back, contending for the ACC, no doubt. But this is a big year of transition. I don't think they're going to be very good at all. If there was any time to handpick, you have to play on the road to Virginia Tech. Pick a year. Well, when are they going to be vulnerable? This will be the year.
Yeah, kind of lucky. We didn't know that when we scheduled them.
And we did not. No, we did not.
Predicted or wanted to be that way.
We actually helped them get to that point last year because they were on cloud nine coming into Morgantown. They had just beat North Carolina. They were ranked, and we just ruined their season basically.
Yeah, and sometimes that momentum shift is a huge deal. I mean, they were, 2-0. The Middle Tennessee State wasn't really a big win, but, opened the season with a win over North Carolina that's ranked 10 at the time. And again, nobody knew that North Carolina was going to end up being 6-6 at the time.
Right.
Generally though, like last year, the ACC just had a down year. Even Clemson was down.
Pitt was their champion, so that's all you got to say.
Yeah, I didn't want to be. I don't want to be the one to say that, but I'm not going to
You
disrespect
set me
you.
up for that one, buddy. You set me up. Good job. You didn't even realize it, did you?
I might have. I might not have.
Subliminally, you did. You weren't consciously thinking about it, but yeah, that was a nice one too, right there. Not even gonna lie.
So for all the Pitt fans out there, I've got some intelligence for them, and you're going to hate me for sharing this, but what I'm hearing is that Graham Harrell's favorite move is going to be some empty 5 wide sets.
Oh, what's their weakness on defense?
Defensive back.
Yep. Yep. So it seems like that he's literally scouting them, figuring out their weakness, and that's what we're going to attack the most. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. I still think we're going to run the ball a decent amount, but to me, I think whenever we do throw, it's going to be for a purpose. It's not going to be like the last 3 years where we're just hoping to get a couple yards to set up for a 2nd and 8 or a 2nd and 7, whatever. I think this year we're going to be throwing with a purpose. We're going to be throwing to hurt somebody. We're going to be throwing to gouge the other team, to get a first down with one throw. I don't think it's this play is going to set up that play, that's going to set up that play, and then 3 plays combined. We get 9.5 yards, and the sticks were slightly off, and we got a first down.
Yeah, and I mean, it's probably going to look a little more like an organized air raid style offense with more run pass balance.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
I remember watching some of the post game play by play reels of the way that Dana Holgerson ran his offense, and just kind of how structured it was. Like, you don't think about it on play 1, 2, or 3 that they're throwing the ball here to this route on purpose, and that they're throwing the ball here to this route on purpose, and then they're running a draw here on purpose. And the purpose of all that was to shift the defense over here to as a decoy. And it's more of a chess game than what was being played last year. I would not say it was a chess game at all. I don't know that our offensive coordinator was able to think a play ahead, let alone 5.
Yes, that is a great point that you pointed out. I will say I didn't like Dana Holgerson as a head coach. I think if he would have been an offensive coordinator, I would have liked him a lot more. I didn't think he was a very good representative of West Virginia. He didn't fit in, and I'm not trying to say, "Oh, outsider, you don't belong." No, it's just as a head coach, he didn't do a very good job. If he would have been offensive coordinator, he would have done a great job. And that's what leads into this. He was a great offensive coordinator. And, a lot of people talk about defenses that wear offenses out. Well, Dana Holgerson's offenses wore defenses out because he had them running on this way on this play, and then it says, oh, now they're going over. Oh, now we got. You never knew what side of the field they were going to go, and it wasn't just 5 feet difference. I mean, we're talking sideline to sideline and everywhere in between, and you just didn't know where it was going to go next. And I think that's the one biggest thing that our offense was missing, because the downfall with Neil Brown is on the offensive side. It's great that he's a numbers guy. It's great that he's calculated, and it works perfect for the defense, but it doesn't work for offense. You can't be that calculated on offense. You have to be willing to, they're doing this, so we need to go over here. The soft spots here. You got to be constantly adjusting your offense, not just going by, statistics and high percentage plays. Obviously, it didn't work. Our offense couldn't wear out a group of 5 defense. That's how bad it was. The reason why we celebrated so almost like a relief every time we scored a touchdown, because it was. I mean, it was actually rare for West Virginia to score a touchdown. The best game we had was against Iowa State. We did score 37 points. Whenever I saw the final score, because I didn't get to watch it, it was not available in my area. I was like, how did we put up 37 points? In the Dana Holgerson era, it was like, how did we give up 57 points? Complete opposite. So I think we're going to see a lot more balance. I think the defense is going to be great as usual. and we're going to actually score points. It's not something that people don't understand. It's not that we had to go from average to elite offense. We just need to go from a terrible offense to average offense. That's the gap. I mean, anything above that is gravy. And with JT Daniels, all 5 offensive linemen coming back, the wide receiving core that we have, the defense going to be great as usual. I expect us to at least be average. And we're going to have some of that gravy extra because of JT Daniels.
Well, and you know, one of the things we talk about so much with quarterbacks, right, is like the end result. We talk about how many yards per attempt are they getting? What's their completion percentage? All the things that go into QBR and rating, right?
Yep.
And then we talk about, does that translate to wins and losses? But what we fail to talk about a lot, I think, is what goes into those statistics. They're a product of something.
Yep.
And what is that something? And for JT Daniels, I think the something that adds up to the numbers that he's been able to put together when healthy is he's really got it up here. He's got it up here more than any quarterback we've had in a long time. I think he has it up there more than Will Grier did. Will Grier just had more athleticism.
Yes. Smart. Very smart.
And Will Grier was a coach's son, though, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Will Grier was an idiot. I think that JT Daniels is smarter as a quarterback, and that he reads defenses and diagnoses defensive alignments better than maybe anybody that we've ever seen play in the past 15 years for West Virginia at that position. And you know what that does? That helps an offensive line a lot, because JT Daniels probably whispering up to the center saying, you know, call these guys out. And JT Daniels is also saying, I've got a hot route over here, because he knows what the alignment is, and he knows where the pressure is coming from, and he knows how quickly he has to get the ball off before the play is ever snapped.
And he didn't have to learn a whole new offense with Graham Harrell.
Right. And so that's where the intelligence comes into play. And I think that that's the real advantage that JT Daniels offers is Daggy didn't, if he was doing that calculation, he was doing it like 3 seconds too slow.
Slow motion is, I mean, and it was like he got slower throughout the year. Like, you could tell he was losing confidence as the year went on. I think Iowa State helped him a little bit, but he never recovered. Never.
Yeah, and I imagine, I mean, that's not an easy cycle. Just think about anything that we do in our lives. You start making mistakes, and then the mistakes compound on each other, and you start turning a bad start to a day into a bad day, into a bad week, into a bad month. And it's hard to break that cycle.
He just spiraled and couldn't get out of it. All right, so we haven't done this yet. I know we have one more Friday to the Backyard Brawl, but I think it's time. All right, time to put all of our cards out before we get out of here. I got to cut it short a little bit tonight because I'm having some kid issues over here. But I wanted to put the cards out on the table. Time for a prediction, buddy. I think it's time. And maybe next week we can talk about why we predicted what more in depth, why we predicted what we predicted. So this might seem homerish because I'm fairly sure we know who's going to win. But what type of score? I still want you to pick the winner, say the name, and give me what type of score, what you're expecting.
I am going to say, believe it or not, 34-17. West Virginia.
Dude, are you serious? 34-21 is what I'm going with.
I wrote it down. The light's in the way, so
34-21 is what I have it. Seriously. All right. Why do we have this much confidence against West Virginia, against Pitt, who just won the ACC? They're going to have a great defense. West Virginia had a terrible offense last year. Why are we picking West Virginia not only to beat Pitt, but convincingly?
I mean, we could definitely go into this more in depth, but my rationale is that the secondary is the biggest weakness for them. It's going to be something that we will be able to take advantage of mismatches on. I think that JT Daniels gets the ball out quickly enough to neutralize the strength of Pitt, which is the defensive line. And I think that Pitt is going to, they've notoriously started slow in seasons. And I think with Keaton Slovis and some of the troubles that he's had, I think that they're just going to start a step slower on offense. And they're just not going to be able to keep up with what West Virginia is going to have, which is a very good defense. Yep. And I think we're going to create a turnover or two as a result of that. And I think you underestimate perhaps that Graham Harrell knows Keaton Slovis like the back of his hand. Yes. Graham Harrell knows what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, and most importantly in the game of football, something that the average fan overlooks, what his tells are. He knows why Keaton Slovis looks a certain way before a play. And there's only so much of that you can change with a new playbook. The quarterback is still telling what he's doing in a way that's consistent with who that quarterback is. Now, you could say Keaton Slovis knows Graham Harrell's offense, but Keaton Slovis is a 21-year-old kid.
And there's a difference between him knowing Graham Harrell's offense and knowing JT Daniels' tendencies. Two different things.
And yeah, Keaton Slovis and Graham Harrell were teammates, or not Graham Harrell, but JT Daniels were teammates for a year. But that doesn't mean that Keaton Slovis picked up on everything that JT Daniels did. And JT Daniels has had 2 years at Georgia to change the way that he operates.
And how many years ago was that?
Three years ago now, right? Yep. So I just, you add those things up to me, and I think it favors West Virginia.
All right, so keys to the game. You have 31-17, 34-17. I have 34-21. West Virginia is going to have a quarterback in JT Daniels that's going to be able to expose Pitt's weakness on defense, and that is their secondary, and it is a weakness. It's not like it's a little worse than no glaring weakness. And we're hearing from practices that Graham Harrell is liking the spread 5 wide. That's going to attack over the top. Pitt losing Kenny Pickett, top 5 all-time Pitt quarterback. I don't care who you are, best quarterback since Dan Marino. And Jordan Addison transferring. The offense is simply not going to look like what it did last year. Keaton Slovis is going to have a decent year. They're going to go 8-4, which is still a good year. But against a West Virginia defense, and this early in the year, it's just not going to be good enough. And on top of that, we've all been hearing that Keaton Slovis has been kind of struggling with the offense. I'm not saying he won't have it by then, but it's taken him a while to get it. So I think he'll start off much slower than JT Daniels. I think West Virginia can get off to a decent lead, maybe a 10-0, and then just keep working from there, building on that. I think it's going to be a battle. It's going to look like a close game. It's going to be like, 10-0, 10-3, or 10-6, and then we score, back and forth like that. But slowly but surely, we will build that lead. And I think Pitt's going to have a tough time getting the ball in the end zone. I don't think they're going to have as tough a time of moving the ball. West Virginia has a bend defense, but getting into the end zone is just it's not going to be easy for Pitt, not at all. So I like that. Graham Harrell, an actual offensive coordinator. We didn't have that last year. So we're going to have the things that we didn't have last year to flip those 50-50 football games. And before we had that, this was going to be a 50-50 football game considering Pitt's losses. Well, we do have that. It is going to flip. And West Virginia is going to make a statement in game 1 on the road and beat the defending ACC champs, Pitt Panthers, 34-21. And after that game, people will start talking about West Virginia. This team might have a shot of winning the Big 12 championship. And what I'll say to that is hold your horses, because it'll look like we beat a great team in Pitt, but Pitt's up, and this is not, I'm not even trash talking Pitt right now. You suffered heavy losses on that offense. The ACC will allow you to still be successful, but the tough teams that you're going to play, you're going to lose. You're going to lose to West Virginia. You're going to lose to Miami. You're going to lose. Do they play Clemson? I think they play Clemson. Hold on. You know what? I don't want to hold that thought real quick. Hold that thought. I don't want to trip over myself. So they're definitely going to lose to West Virginia. All right, here we go. Yes, a West Virginia fan did not memorize the Pitt football schedule, so sue me. They're going to lose to West Virginia. They're going to lose to Tennessee. They're going to lose to Miami. You know what? They might only be a 3-loss team because of how soft the ACC schedule. So I'd say 9-3, 8-4. But West Virginia is just going to be the better team. Bottom line. But comparable to the Big 12, you're going to have Baylor to deal with. You're going to have Oklahoma to deal with. You're going to have Kansas State to deal with. Oklahoma State. But I think we take care of most of those teams because most of those teams are at home. What I'm saying is don't let your head get way up here, because Pitt by far will not be the most difficult team that we play all year. So, yes, I'm calling a win, but don't get too inflated over that. I think we're going to have a good season, but I'm not quite sure about Big 12 title hopes. I think it's a little too early to be saying stuff like that. Denver Steiner, thank you for the $4.99 donation. He's calling a blowout, 31-9, West Virginia over Pitt. So-called national titles. I don't know what that part means. Maybe does Pitt have 9 natties?
No, unless they claim natties that they didn't earn. They do not.
Maybe that was just a jab at the end. Okay. But anyways, he's calling a blowout, 31-9, which, I mean, ours isn't that far off, but I don't think it's going to be. I think Pitt will score a couple times, get it in the end zone a couple times, but I'm very confident, and I cannot say the same thing last year whenever I made the bet with Talkus Pitt, which I don't know if we're going to be able to do it because he's not going to be able to make it to the game now, so I don't know. He said his new boss wouldn't honor his old commitment, so whenever I made the bet, I was not confident, but I had to put faith in my team, so I made the bet. So I'm way, 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 way more confident now because of what happened in the offseason than what I was back then. And as a West Virginia fan, that's actually weird because usually you're less confident after the offseason because injuries, stuff like that. You're like, man, I was confident. We have a bunch of senior leadership coming back from last year, and we had a decent team, but this happened and that happened and blah, blah, blah. So it's actually nice to be more confident from the end of the season till now.
I was just looking at this while you were talking, but strength of schedule for this coming season. And SI did it just based on the last season's records of the team of the schedule for this year. And Pitt was ranked tied for 108th.
Yeah.
In terms of strength of schedule, and West Virginia is at 25th.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying they're going to finish 9-3 because their schedule's not tough.
But yeah, I do think even if we dominate Pitt, even if it's 31-9, like Denver said, temper expectations even after that win. Because the Big 12 is the Big 12, and it's different than the ACC. We play all 9 teams every year.
Exactly.
Until we add to the conference and bring in the other guys, then it'll change. But for now, we play all 9 teams, good or bad. If we've got a down year, that's great. And we do have a little bit of a down year, but there are still contenders in there. There's still Baylor. There's still Oklahoma. There's still Texas that theoretically could be back because they recruit well enough to be back. They just haven't shown it yet. Exactly. And Oklahoma State. I mean, that's 4 teams right there that are as hard or harder than anybody that Pitt plays this year. So, we can't just say, oh, we smashed Pitt, we're going to be 12-0. No, don't start saying that.
Absolutely. Seriously, Big 12 is that tough. Tell everybody where they can find you. Man, I got to get out of here, kids.
Yeah, man. I'm at Last Word on College Football. Travis Kenobi is my name, just like Obi-Wan. And y'all have a good night. Chris, you have a good night too.
You too, buddy. Thanks for stopping by, Travis.
Yeah, man.
Good show. We're going to wrap it up, guys. Hopefully y'all enjoyed yourself. Even if you didn't agree with everything we said, we're not here, trying to agree with everybody. It's just have a good time, be entertained. That's what it's all about. On your way out, whether you're at Golden Blue Dude, Voice of College Football, or West Virginia Voice of College Football, hit the thumbs up on the way out. Even though it won't be live anymore, it still helps the YouTube algorithm and get more views. So if you do that on the way out, if you're not subscribed to whatever channel you're watching, please hit the subscribe button. We greatly appreciate your support. If you're watching on Golden Blue Dude, I do videos every single day. So if you're a college football fan, you're not just going to see this, West Virginia. You're going to see all of college football. Same with the Voice of College Football channel. If you're not subbed over there, then I don't even know what you're thinking. He does live shows every single day covering all the teams. Honestly, I don't know how he does it. He's like the Energizer Bunny. But for this one, that about wraps it up. We're going to have one more live show before the Backyard Brawl. One more.
That's crazy, man.
One more.
Seemed like a long way away 3 months ago.
Yeah. Then the one after that's going to be the reaction show, and we'll be popping champagne and dancing.
Yeah, that either way. I mean,
or we won't be doing a show.
All right, guys.
All right. Y'all have a good night. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next Friday night.